What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Vault Hunters with me, Simply Zach. I'm very happy to see you back here today. We're going to be working on our storage system and getting that worked out, so I hope you guys are excited for that because I sure am. And while you guys are getting caught up on that, I'm going to start digging out the rest of this tunnel behind me, and hopefully by the time you're caught up, I will be too. So, without further ado, I'm going to get digging, and let's roll the intro and get into the episode.
Is anyone there? Hi.
And just jumping right in today, we are going to be moving our RF system around a little bit, and it'll give me an opportunity to slow it down a little bit for you guys and kind of talk about a little more of the decision-making process, as well as explain a little bit what's going on with RF and the drawers and getting everything all synced up and hooked up together here in a cohesive way. I'll take this opportunity to say I hope that when you're watching this, you're having a great morning, afternoon, or evening, whichever time it may be. We're going to go ahead and dig out these boss crates here and just get them up out of the way. Basically just try to get ourselves a little bit of room here to kind of expand this backwards a little bit. Gonna need a torch here just so I can get rid of the dragon egg because that is a little temperamental and I don't want it teleporting everywhere. There's a couple times we've lost it on this map due to clicking on the wrong thing with the right click, so gotta keep that safe. Don't want to misplace your one-of-a-kind valuables. There's not many one-of-a-kind items in Minecraft, but the dragon egg certainly is one of those. Gonna have to clear out these barrels, unfortunately, so we kind of use these barrels here as like a dump spot for our vault runs so that we can just collect all the gear together and then divvy it up between Chad and myself since we run vaults pretty much exclusively solo, or co-op, excuse me. And as you can see there, we just have way too many enchanted books. So we're probably going to need to do something about that in the future. As of right now, nothing has still been done. We just still have a barrel full of who knows what enchantments. And yeah, I just cut out the little bit of me moving most of them over because yeah, it's just transferring a ton of books. Nobody wants to see that. And this is one of the little Easter egg books here. I'm not sure exactly what those are. Somebody in the comments let me know if those have a purpose or what reason for existing those really have, other than maybe just an Easter egg. And we're going through here. I found a scavenger crate that still had vault loot in it that was stuck in my backpack. That tends to happen sometimes when you're running a ton of vaults. You end up with a bunch of extra loot and stuff just kind of filling up crates. And when you have like 10 or 8 scavenger crates and none of them are named, it gets a little wild out there. It gets a little hard to tell where your stuff is and where your stuff isn't, if I'm being honest with you. But I think we have enough room over here cleared out now to where I can probably just come over here and start moving some of this stuff out of the floor. Try to clean this up a little bit. I don't even know why we had a cauldron there, if I'm being honest with you. I think it was our trash can at one point in time, but we've moved past that. There's a plug for my newest short. If you want to learn how to build a trash can yourself, make sure and check it out. It's on the channel. So we're going to be taking out this back asphalt area here, and I'm going to be looking to push this back a little bit because it's feeling a little claustrophobic, and I kind of want this to feel like the command center of the storage system. So, oh, well, didn't even knock, just barged right on in. I'm going to have to call security on him. This is one downside of moving your storage system, is that you're going to move your controller, and you're going to move your drives, and then you're going to want something out of there inevitably, and you're not going to have access to it. So keep that in mind, and maybe plug your storage system up in a easy to access / temporary place around where you're going to be moving your stuff. Oh, thanks, Chad. Chad made us an echo pog there with our resources so that we can upgrade our crafting grid. That will be most beneficial. So we're going to come out here and try to camouflage this basement because it's going to be a little bigger and it's going to kind of run right up against the side of the house. And going to need to cover that up with a little bit of dirt / turf. Turf is actually a fantastic block, in my opinion. It's basically like grass, but it has it on all sides, kind of how some of those texture packs do for vanilla grass in Minecraft, but I don't know, it's really nice having the texture variety of either a full-sided grass or a partially sided grass with the dirt. There's a lot of fun things you can do with mixing those up to make some nice natural terrain. Not that I'm doing it right here on camera. I'm basically just covering up the covering up the hole in the ground, but you can do some things. Oh, nah, we gotta go back out and plant that sunflower. Can't leave that just dangling around in the inventory. But anyway, yeah, the turf is actually a really cool block. I really like that one. You can also make stairs and slabs out of it, which obviously you can't with grass, so pretty fantastic for making nice little landscapes and stuff like that for sure. Coming back down here, I'm going to try to get it kind of laid out where I want the lights to go. Just because that'll make it a little easier for me when I'm coming through and covering with grass. Just to kind of have a basis for where the outline of the basement's going to go. Because I don't really want to overdo this area with grass, considering it's right in front of the house. And, yeah, you don't want just a hill in front of your house. That's not looking good, you know? So I make the bold decision to go out pretty far with it, to be honest. Don't worry, we do end up coming up to the surface and cleaning that up at some point, but I do believe it's probably time we put down our storage system, at least in a temporary capacity, for a second here, to where I can get some of the blocks that I need that are hiding on these drives. So it's pretty easy just to throw your stuff down, to be honest with you. As long as you have a power cable and a regular cable going into your controller, it's all going to work well. As long as you don't put your drives into the disk manipulator. The disk manipulator essentially makes it to where you can kind of, air quotes, defrag your drives. You know, if you have like a part of a stack of cobblestone on one, or say you want to get everything off of like a 4K drive or something like that, you would put it in the manipulator and put it onto a drive that has more space, or put it back into your system so that you could combine your 4K drives into 16K and so forth. It's basically a way just to empty your drives without pulling your hair out. It's a nice quality of life block for sure. It's worth adding to your RF system, even if you don't think you're going to use it much. It's worth to have it for, you know, in the off chance that you do need it. It's not an expensive block by any means. Coming back around here now, we're kind of figuring out exactly what the what the roof of the situation is going to look like. And Chad did craft up the crafting grid for us, so now we at least have that to put on our main system. Get it set up to just enough items synchronized, and then when you type into this, it'll pull up your just enough items, and it's super easy to use that as a quick crafting method, if you will, because you can just go over to the right, select the item you want, hit the plus sign, it'll pull it if you have it. If you don't have it, you're going to have to jump down the rabbit hole of crafting a little bit further. But let's get our nice little blue lights lined up here to kind of section off the hall, get it covered up with the slabs. And like I said, don't worry, I don't think it's on camera here, but I did end up going to the front of the house and cleaning that up a little bit, because it was rough. But we got it looking pretty good. So now we're going to pick out the blocks that we're going to use for the sides here. At first, I debated going full ebony with it to kind of match the sides, but we'll come back to that. We definitely don't end on just the ebony wood. And here we go, making a few stack upgrades. So the stack upgrades are actually going to be super good for these little dank offloaders we have here. That's another part of the inventory system that is pretty important in Vault Hunters, is making sure you have your danks, the storage stations, so to speak, or the offloading stations hooked up to your main RF system. It's really annoying to go through and offload danks by hand, so the little dank storage things are definitely where it's at. And we're going to get those scooted up in a little bit more of a easy to use location, because where they were in the floor, they tend to, when you would pull the dank out of them, they just lose the dank. It would just fall through and float on the floor. And even with the ring of magnetization and stuff like that, you couldn't really pick them up. So we're getting these shifted over. I definitely like having the boss crates in the floor. So these 6 boss crates here are essentially dump crates. That's what these importers are on the bottom. We're going to end up upgrading those importers in the future, but for now they are just basic ones, and anything you throw into the boss crates on top of them will get pulled into your system. So you could even take the empty boss crates and put full boss crates down if you wanted to, which is what we do a lot of times, to dump all the random stuff you get from vaults before you get the Vault Looter perk, which is very expensive, by the way. If you go Vault Looter, you're going to be spending a ton of Echo for charms and stuff, so just be prepared for that. I would wait until you have a good amount of Echo before you invest the Knowledge Stars into Vault Looter, personally. But we are going to have to move the cables down a little bit because they just so happen to be right in the way of the floor. And I was one cable short, because of course I was, so we have to put the inventory system back down once more. And the crafting grid so that I can grab the cable that I need, because I was, as I said, one short, which is always how it happens. I don't believe that's the only time it's going to happen in this episode, that I'm going to be one short. So keep your eyes out for that. But coming back through and, adding some of the ebony logs and some of the walls here so that we have a little more shape to our central storage brain, if you will. And I do believe I'm going to put the danks right along this wall, the dank unloading stations. So we're going to go ahead and start getting those prepped with some item importers. And the importers, of course, can be upgraded with the speed upgrades and the stack upgrades to make them insanely quick. The stack upgrade's a little pricey, but it is very much worth it, in my opinion. It is one Echo Pog, but I mean, or one Echo, excuse me, not Echo Pog, but it is what it is. I mean, by, 120 or so in the vault levels, you should be coming across Echo somewhat regularly, especially if you're running the Challenger seals. They're actually a fantastic way of getting Echo, in my experience at least. You get at least one usually from the boss crate of that. And I do believe we're going to put our controller and the rest of our RF stuff here against the back wall. Just need a little extra room here. One thing that's slightly annoying is I wish you could turn haste on and off with Vault Hunters, because having the haste in a vault is crucial, but running around with haste 3 all the time when you're doing small little projects and stuff can be a bit frustrating, because you will definitely overmine quite a bit, to be honest with you. So we got that all hooked up, and that is going to work just fine, although the power cable is on the same level as the floor, so we're actually going to have to move that slightly over. And I don't know if I actually have enough power cable to bridge that gap. Looks like we're going to be, as you guessed, one short. Because that's the story of this episode, being one short and not having a storage system down to grab the last one you need. So again, we're going to throw our temporary storage system into the floor, and all I have is starter cables, so we're going to have to craft up a few of the basic cables. I don't think you really need anything better than a basic cable just for a RF system that's really only using drives and being a storage system. If you're making it do more than that, you're probably going to need a more sufficient power source, or at least a way to get the power more efficiently to your controller. So we got all of our system there, got our drives back in, we have our crafting grid attached, and now we can start grabbing some of our other little bits and pieces of the RF system and start stacking them in on this back wall, like the disk manipulator and the second storage drive that I have. I believe we actually found that second storage drive inside of a treasure room, so that was pretty nice of the game. Sometimes the treasure rooms are fairly kind, and other times they are not, from my experience. So we're going to get this all detailed out a little more, get our asphalt back on that back wall to give it a little bit of a differentiation between that and the ebony logs, kind of have like a little bit of an accent wall going on behind the brains of the system there. I think that's looking pretty good. This floor is getting a bit frustrating, so I think it's probably high time we take care of that and actually get a level floor to walk on, because falling down over and over, again, as I'm trying to get the details ironed out, is a little annoying. So let's get that thrown in and get our wireless crafting grid linked back up, since this is now at its permanent location. Wireless crafting grid, of course, is well worth it as well. It's going to be just as expensive as a regular crafting grid, with a couple extra little things thrown on there, but being able to craft on the go and have your inventory available at the press of a button is invaluable, in my opinion. So we're going to come right along here and actually, just kind of wall in the floor here so we'll quit falling and we get a little bit of a better idea of what the area is kind of shaping up like. Now these are not centered and I don't like that, so we're going to shift them over just a little bit here so that they kind of line up on the middle of the wall a little bit more. So we're going to have to do a little bit more digging on this side and finagling with it to get them kind of lined up the way I want. Make sure the cables are all good so they're not, where walls need to be. And there's the wall there, and we'll get this dug out a little further and throw our importers on here. And we're definitely going to have to make another stack upgrade for the third importer here, because we're going to just have 3 dank offloading stations so that Chad and I can offload our danks extremely quickly when we are done running vaults, because as I stated before, it is extremely annoying to offload danks by hand. Get the third one, get them all turned around with the wrench here to where they're looking where they need to be looking, and get a little bit of flare put in the floor and on the ceiling, just so you get a nice visible light source coming to draw your attention to where the danks are offloading. And I think that looks pretty good. We'll have to clean that wall up a little bit more. I'm going to raise this wall up just a little more behind this system here, give it a little more breathing room, and probably do the same above the danks as well. And I guess over here across the way from the danks, not 100% sure what that area is going to be for yet, but I'm sure we will be coming back to that at some point very soon. First thing we'd like to do is probably tie in the roof a little bit more with these little side sections here. I kind of like the way that looks. Definitely has it looking a little cleaner. And give a little light to the front of these sections as well. Tie in the blue. And come back and start trying to clean up this mystery wall and deciding what exactly we're going to be doing with this wall. Having a blank wall in the middle of our little crafting hub here isn't the worst thing in the world. There's probably some things I can do with it as far as utility items that would be good to have kind of close that you can't access just within an RF system. First things first though, let's try to figure out a good wall color for this area. I'm going to use some of this stripped enchanted logs here and well, these lights right here are kind of weird. Probably match these up to match the actual lights of the roof. That looks a little bit better. And I'm not a fan, I don't think, of these blue logs here. So let's get rid of those and try something a little different. We'll go with some deep slate bricks. And that looks pretty good, but that honestly kind of feels like a cop-out a little bit, because I've used deep slate bricks in so many different things here. So I'm going to try to not use those, even though they look pretty, I mean, they look fine. We'll use some of the planks from that other wood, and that's an immediate nope, because that is a little bit too light, and I'm not vibing with the feel of that. Don't even know what was this, weathered limestone? That doesn't look terrible, but still not quite the vibe I'm going for here. And I think we found our winner here. The charred nether bricks look really good alongside the ebony logs, the stripped ebony logs. And so let's go back to this area that we weren't really 100% sure on and start seeing about decorating here. I'm going to have to take off these, sadly, so that I can put a shelf above the top. I think I'm going to leave them on the side, though. And throw our little shelf up here. These little metal trapdoors are wonderful shelves. And put our dragon egg up there, a little bit out of the way to where hopefully no one accidentally clicks it. And a little creeper head for some pizzazz. I'm going to come back over here and kind of set this up the same way we had it set up before. And I think off camera there I did put just like a basic battery or hardened battery from Power there, just so our storage system has a little bit of a buffer battery. So if for some reason our reactor runs out, our storage system will stay active for a little bit longer. I'm going to come back and clean this floor up, of course, because that stone was never going to be permanent. And that looks a lot cleaner, and get some of our little odds and ends put down here, like our anvil, and turn that the right way, and then put our saw down. And what else we got hiding in this box? And we have another metal shelf, we can throw that there. And actually probably going to need a second metal shelf so that I have a place to put the ender chest at right about there, and stick that there, and actually no shelf here. We're going to use a smithing table there because that's one of the little crafty items that we actually did not have yet. We've been running down to repair or upgrade stuff down by our villager that actually uses that as his workstation. So we're going to come through and change out some of the lights here and kind of tie in those blue glow, I believe it's called like glow cane blocks. They're really pretty. It's a nice variation on like glowstone. And you find some of that stuff in and out of like vaults and whatnot. And change this one up to purple just to kind of draw some attention to the dank unloading area and set up our barrels with our other shenanigans over here for our vault loot and all that kind of stuff. Think it's looking pretty good. Add a little bit of greenery there to spice it up, a little lantern. And last but not least, we're actually going to come through here and throw some storage upgrades into our boss crate unloaders. So there were no storage upgrades, so I just went ahead and crafted 2 for each, and we'll just throw those in there. These don't necessarily need to be the fastest thing in the world, but it does help having a couple upgrades on there to speed up the process just a little bit. And then we can throw our boss crates back down into the floor, and everything is squared away. And this is actually a final little look around at the storage room with some final tweaks and touches from some of our more modern loot we've gotten. We do have extra diamond and netherite barrels in the walls now, and I did move the knowledge stars right over here behind that. I like the way that looks. I think it looks pretty fancy. And got some diamonds mixed into the floor because we're high rolling. Hope you enjoyed the storage system. And as I promised, while you guys were catching up on the storage system, I have been busy expanding the hallway. So let us go and take a look, shall we? The design is more or less the same as it was in the main hall. The roof is slightly different. Kind of went for a stone, cobblestone, kind of mossy feel for it. And this hallway is actually, if I pull up the map, running below everyone's houses here. You can get a sneak peek at where we're headed. We got Jared's house that goes off that way. Chad's house is coming off of the end down here, right there. And then you have the entrance that comes out into my place. So I'm pretty happy with my little sign I got going on here. We did some Botania shenanigans to get our player heads, and yeah, I think it's looking pretty good. I also noticed in this mod pack, if you put a flower pot underneath the chain, it actually makes it a hanging flower pot. Not sure what mod that's from, but worth noting. Got a nice little hallway coming up here, and we are now in the shell of where my house is going to be. So I did finish up the shell since last episode, but I think in our next episode we're actually going to come through here and kind of wall this building off and decorate it together. Let me sleep the night off really quick so I don't get beat up by the big bads outside, or they'll just come in because I don't have doors, you know. Now that I have strength and everything, just one tap literally everything with an axe. It's wonderful. Dang. There's a lot of mobs out here. But yeah, we can go into free cam real quick and take a look at the rest of the build here. I'm pretty stoked with the way this build came out. This build was actually inspired by a house in real life, and I'll do kind of what I did with the wizard tower and throw a picture of it up on screen for a second here so you can judge how closely I got it to the actual thing. I'm pretty excited to get in here, and there's going to be a lot of room to play around with our floor plan and seeing how we want everything to shake out. Even got a little tower right here that's going to house some stairs taking us between the different floors. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Pretty hyped to get in there and get some work done on the house. But yeah, guys, I do appreciate you hanging out and checking out the progress on the Vault Hunters, as always. Next week, we will be hopping into the house and getting some of that done. And as you can see from my vault level down there, I have actually ran quite a few vaults since the last clip as well. And maybe next week I'll throw 1 or 2 of those into the video too, so you guys can kind of follow along. I do believe there's only one vault that I think is worth watching, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And as always, I've been Simply Zach. This has been Vault Hunters, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Have a good one, everyone.